Welcome to Celebrate Aging. I'm Vicki Marthaler, your hostess today at Emmanuel Community, as we think about how can we celebrate this new year, 2011. Boy, when you were going to school, did you think you'd ever write 2011? It just even sounds funny. Well, I have a little poster here I want to share with you. Maybe you've seen it as an ad in the paper. But we are nearing the end of January. We're on Friday night, January the 28th. We will have our annual charity benefit. It's going to be held at the Speakeasy in Detroit Lakes. And we will be having a dance as well. The music is by a group from Perham called the Sapphires. And it's a sit-down supper. As well as silent auction items will be there, and a wine raffle. You can have a chance at a wall of wine. All different kinds of things happening, fun things happening, because we are celebrating. And notice the word celebrate is in red. We've kind of chosen a black and white theme, and we're punctuating it with red, because red is a color of celebration, and we do celebrate aging and life here at Emmanuel Community. Another plug about or information that you want to know about this is the tickets are $50 each because it is a fundraiser. And we are raising money to buy specialized, oversized beds for our residents. So that's our goal. And we know that it is a needful thing, and we know that you, as community, want to be a part of what we're doing here at Emmanuel, because it's always good stuff as we take care of people. So we want you to be included, and to get your tickets, you have to call Emmanuel, 847-4486, or if you're brave, you have a warm coat and your car is warmed up, drive on over and buy yourself a ticket or two. Invite your friends as well, because we love to have a full house. We always do, and it is a great night of celebrating. So it's Friday, January the 28th, the Speakeasy, and you need your little ticket for $50, and you can get that at Emmanuel. Now, celebrating. Of course, I like to talk about that and why it's such a really good deal. And one thing we have done with our staff is we have gone to our staff here at Emmanuel and we said, so why do you stay here? There's other places that you can work. There's other avenues open to you. Why Emmanuel, and what makes you stay on the day that's hard and kind of crazy, and you go home and think, oh my gosh, this was unbelievable. I thought this day would never end. What is it that makes you come back, and why do you stay? Well, of course, what we've been hearing from our staff, because we have fabulous staff who work here at Emmanuel, is that they have made connections to the residents. And so they give us an example of some of the residents that they have connected with, and we get what we call a love story. And of course, as we're nearing February and Valentine's Day, it's fun to hear love stories and why people care and why people do such good work. And so I'd like to share with you, I've written down kind of condensed them into Reader's Digest condensed versions. I want to share with you some of our love stories of our staff who are in love with the residents. Here's the first one. And this person, she's a housekeeper. She says, I've worked at the nursing home for many years. I felt a calling to care for the elderly, yet when I first began, I found myself almost apologize for being just a housekeeper. One day a family came to me and they handed me a poem that they had written. It's called The Minister with a Mop, and it goes like this. As you swish that mop day after day, you think of our loved ones and pray. Your sweet spirit goes before you in each act of kindness that you do. The little smile, the hug, the how are you, as faithfully daily tasks you do. Be sure these go on before, rewards wait for you at heaven's door. Well, I no longer apologize for being just a housekeeper, for this is my calling, and this is my life. I help residents, and I love what I do. How special for that family to affirm what they saw in that housekeeper. her caring and her love and her connection with the residents. And so that's the first love story I'd like to share with you. The second is from a nurse. She says, I'm a nurse and I find inspiration from the residents I care for. My experience with the residents is that they are honest and witty, forthright and caring. They are also quite available for advice and consultation. I have a teenage daughter, and some days I find myself at wit's end trying to deal with teenage issues. One especially trying day, I found myself visiting with one of our newer residents named Lauren. Lauren's very easygoing and very personable. And when I was bringing him his morning medication, I asked about his family. And I said, Lauren, do you have any children? Well, Lauren almost choked on his pills. He said, do I have any children? Why, I have 17 children. And then it was my turn to almost choke. 17! You have 17 children? Can you imagine having 17 teenagers? Well, Lauren laughed and told me that many people react in astonishment when they learn the size of his family. And he said he loved being a dad, and that there was never a dull moment in his household. So I couldn't help but ask his advice about teenagers. He must be quite the professional. Well, Lauren's eyes twinkled, and he folded his hands across his lap. And then he said, honey, you just love them. You tell them you love them, and when they get into a pickle, you just keep loving them. Well, I've never forgotten that conversation, and I've come to meet many of Lauren's children, and they are very good to their dad. It gives me hope as my daughter and I go through her teenage years. Even when she gets herself into a pickle, I remember Lauren, and I just love her. Isn't that precious? That's worth celebrating, isn't it? Well, here's another love story. One of our CNAs says, I love caring for the residents at the nursing home. One resident especially touches my heart. Every morning when I go in to help with care, she exclaims, boy, am I glad to see you. She makes me laugh. I know I'm making a difference. This little story, too, is very special, and it's a memory from a few years back. I have a story of a gentle care moment. It was September the 11th, the September 11th, and CNN had the full coverage of the planes flying into the Twin Towers in New York and the plane flying into the Pentagon building. Shock and dismay covered the nursing home as we watched the TV and tried to make sense of it all. It happened that my son worked in Washington, D.C., and often had meetings at the Pentagon. I had desperately tried to call him from my office phone many times, but the lines were jammed. In despair, I put my head down on my desk and I cried. And as I sobbed, my heart out, I felt a gentle hand on my shoulder. And I looked up into Bob's face. Bob was a resident who often showed his gruff side, but here he was leaning on his cane, and his voice showed great concern. He asked, "Are you going to be okay?" He was genuinely concerned, and his voice was so caring. I pulled up a chair, and Bob stayed with me for a long time. When my son finally got a call through to me later that day, Bob was the first one I looked for to tell the good news that my son was okay. Connections. That's what we are here at Emmanuel. We connect with people, for those we care for and their families, and we have stories to tell, and we would love to tell you our stories. We hope that you can come to our annual benefit. It's Friday, January the 28th. We'd love to tell you stories of how we care for people and how they care for us. Join us in mission. Join us in celebration. This is Vicki at Emmanuel, wishing you the best.